Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning or good afternoon or evening, wherever you're at. Good to see y'all again. Getting used to this weekly schedule and stuff. You may have seen, but I put out a new video over the weekend, or actually yesterday. This how tech bros and big pharma hijacked psychedelic culture. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely put it on your watch later list because it's a pretty good one. I spoke with a group of psychedelic academics from symposia about like the corporate takeover of the psychedelic industry and just what has happened to the culture in the past 10 years. And it was pretty cool to kind of, connect with people on the same level because the past couple of years has gotten weird. It's like the biggest advocates for psychedelics are their other beliefs are so twisted, you know? Um, and we have Joe Rogan being the spokesperson for DMT and everything. But we got into some really crazy stuff, like some stuff that I wasn't even aware of. Like there's this guy, Christian Angermeyer, who just made I thought it was 2 point some billion dollars, but it's also it 2.8, but it's actually 3.8. They're getting 2.8 billion like up front and then another billion if they meet certain milestones. And this guy is real heavy in the psychedelic industry. So this was Eli Lilly buying his company, Atai Beckley. Um, she lasted 1 minute today. Um, yeah, so that whole thing happened, but this guy is crazy. He has been on all sorts of interviews that I wish I could have clipped in the video, but I saw after the video. He's like talking about how people are depressed, they're miserable with the world that the tech oligarchs have created. These are like literally his words. When they were telling me during the interview that this guy said these things, I thought that they were like, paraphrasing, but he this is like literally end quote, because he said the tech people. He's like us and the tech people. We're building this world that they don't like, so we got to put them on the psychedelics to make them happy with it. And it reminds me of that like Brave New World Soma shit, or just some of those other dystopian movies where they got some kind of chemical concoction to keep people subservient. So that could be some of the motivation for these billions of dollars that are going into psychedelics, not necessarily just you know helping with PTSD or whatever. And even in that case, it is that is quite problematic. And there were a lot of issues with the studies too. Dangerous practices in the studies, people getting hurt, people getting abused, um, like kind of culty shit to some extent. So yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot to explore there. And I think that it's very easy to for people to just be like, oh, we're getting some mainstream attention now, so that's automatically good. And, there were a lot of good points raised. Like one in particular was the situation with Portugal, which I've pointed to for years as a good example for, drug legalization. And they've just decriminalized basically. And as Pace from Symposia put it, they don't have billion-dollar drug companies and billion-dollar psychedelic drug deals going on over there, but it is decriminalized and people aren't going to jail for it. So that's probably the ideal thing that we should be shooting for, but that's obviously not what is happening in the US, which of course everything needs to be turned into a corporate commodity here. But yeah, very, very interesting conversation. So definitely recommend that you check that out. That's the kind of stuff like I want to start doing more of. And that's why I've dropped back from the stream a little bit to kind of focus on stuff like that because this is fun. And that's why I'm continuing to do it every week, and that's I like connecting with y'all and everything. But the content in general, I want stuff that's more like useful for a long time past this week. You know what I mean? Like stuff that could be actually a portfolio piece for me too, to like get journalism jobs and stuff like that. I think that that's going to be a little bit better for the channel and also just better for me in general. And that, even though it only has like, 276 views, that's a lot more than anything else I put out recently, because things have been dead since the Epstein stuff kind of wavered off. But yeah, there's a lot to go through today. A lot of crazy shit going on. Yesterday was 6 years since Michael Brooks died. He was a great academic and Palestinian rights activist. I might have a clip from him somewhere in the list today. I wanted to start, though, with all this crazy shit with Cuba and the reestablishment of McCarthyism, even though I, as I suggested in the headline, I don't think it ever really fully went away. Same thing with COINTELPRO. But the thing is that they are specifically using terms that haven't been used since COINTELPRO, like political terrorism, for example. That is not something that has been that the government has been using since COINTELPRO. I'm sure that they've had programs on the back end, where they disrupt activists and stuff. I mean, we know that there's always feds involved. What the name of the new programs are, it's probably a myriad of them, when back in the day it was just COINTELPRO. But even back then, it was probably more than just COINTELPRO, because the only reason why we found out about that is because the Black Panthers broke into an FBI building because they were fucking awesome and stole a bunch of files. So that's the only reason the world found out about that. And you can imagine how many crazy operations there have been over the years. How many podcasters and stuff are feds. But yeah, this was the statement they put out. When you go to the page, it asks you to download it. I've read it. I don't want to download anything from the government website. I don't even like being on it. But I've read copies of it and skimmed through copies of it because it's quite long. And you could tell as you're going through it that it is like 100% AI. And it's very, very authoritarian. Like this whole, they talk about third worldism and the idea of smaller countries that have less power kind of banding together against the hegemony of the United States. And that's what they mean when they say Western civilization. Like Western civilization is under attack. It is not. It's just that the United States is losing its place as the global hegemon, and they're freaking out about that. It's kind of crazy to think that it was going to last forever. But they want to bring back a blacklist, which is something that they had during the McCarthy-era. And this was where they, they kept people out of certain jobs and stuff like that. Like you couldn't have jobs in academia or in the government if you were labeled as a communist. And it's like they really are scared of this shit. The other thing is like, who is buying this? Cuba has control of our government. That's essentially their argument. And if you the comments on this are mostly people talking about, isn't it Israel that like owns the United States? Which I think there's a pretty equal partnership there, where I do think that the ruling class in the US continues to get something out of that deal. The politicians don't, because they have to deal with the voters who disagree with it. But the ruling class still benefits very much from having that operating base in the Middle East and being able to destabilize the region where they're trying to colonize, essentially. So the other thing about this statement is that it named a bunch of Americans and domestic organizations as being like assisting this Cuban terrorism. And he included Mamdani, the Democratic Socialists of America, Hasan Piker, and even Amy Goodman. I think there's a full list somewhere here. Let me check. And I watched Amy Goodman's report. She was like, she gave the whole story. And then at the very end, and she's like, oh yeah, and by the way, I'm on the list too. Like, she didn't even make a big deal about it. She covered the situation and talked about how it was like trying to criminalize pro-Cuba activism or anti-sanction activism. And then, yeah, at the very end, she was like, and yeah, my name's on it as well. These are the names. President of the National Lawyers Guild, Amazon labor union organizer Christopher Smalls, Antifa, Assata Shakur's daughters, who Assata Shakur is in Cuba if she's still alive. She might have no, she passed like last year. No, yeah. So but she did die peacefully in Cuba after being broken out of jail by the Black Panther. Like, they used to do such badass shit back in that era, in that short time when they were active. Does it say APAC? Is that a different APAC? Look, Association for Investment in Popular Action Committees, a California-based umbrella nonprofit that funds left-wing media and delegation to Cuba. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, I found it. Here we go. Thank you for the screen check. Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles. Medea Benjamin of Code Pink. Black Lives Matter. Chasing Frequencies, a Black queer feminist-led abolitionist project aiming to disrupt what it calls medical industrial complex. That is a typo. Ken Klippenstein. This is his article, basically giving a list of all the people who were mentioned in there. Code Pink in general. Yeah, the founder of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, because he attended the wedding of Roy Singham and Jody Evans, who just fund left-wing causes. George Floyd? What? And Amy Goodman also is on there for attending that wedding. Zohran Mamdani, National Lawyers Guild, Ilhan Omar. Like, this is ridiculous. Hasan Piker. This is so dumb. Maxine Waters, a Democratic congressman who the report notes once wrote a letter urging Fidel Castro not to extradite fugitive Assata Shakur. What? I did not know she had game like that. I guess it might have been when she was younger. It had to have been when she was younger. That shit had to have been before I was born. I want to check that because right to Fidel. I want to check this. 1998. Okay. I was going to say, as long as I could remember, I did not know that you had game like that. So this thing is nonsense. Especially when you got the Ben and Jerry's guy on it. That's just crazy. And the mayor of New York. And the McCarthyist, like, that's their wording. They say they want to bring back blacklists and McCarthy-era investigations. The implication is clear. Secretary of State, this was written by AI too, Mark Rubio thinks that there should be a modern-day blacklist of the political left in America. In fact, the report explicitly mentions the blacklists, McCarthy-era investigations, and prosecutions. So they're just like saying it. And there are a lot of right-wingers now who say like McCarthy was right and all that was good. They're trying to rehabilitate Nixon too. Trying to say that actually Nixon was trying to fight the deep state and end the Vietnam War. Somebody actually said that to me recently. And I mean, there is a way that you can twist it if you believe in all that peace through strength bullshit, where because he did want to nuke them, you know. Yeah, he did want to nuke them. And technically, you could argue, if you're a fucking idiot, that that was him wanting to end the war. I saw a pretty good assessment of this, though, that said that basically this is a sign that they are scared shitless and that actually, you know, they are afraid of like anti-colonial struggle. They are afraid of, you know, the average people of the United States, the working class, the poor, to be allied with, you know, as they call it, the third world, because they kept on saying third worldism. You know, the developing world, the global south, the countries that are getting fucked over. If those of us who are getting screwed over here start to make alliances with the people who are getting screwed over by our government in other countries, instead of having this blind nationalism that they try to brainwash us with, it seems like that's having an effect, and that's something that they're afraid of. You know, they don't like kids out there protesting in support of the countries that these governments are trying to genocide or trying to assist in the genocide of. So especially how sloppy it is too, with everything, with the way Trump is with everything. But yeah, it is still quite sloppy. This is another quote I saw directly from the thing. According to the third worldism thing, advocates of these ideas, the State Department writes, spoke the language of a single planetary struggle, stretching from the battlefield to the classroom between the West and the Third World. In their telling, the revolutionary agent was no longer the industrial proletariat, but the colonized nations and the peoples of the global South. The principal antagonist of a world history was no longer capital, but Western civilization itself. Now, that is, of course, a mischaracterization, but because in the reality, what we are doing is we're connecting our struggle, the worker struggle, the struggle against capitalism, with the struggle that has forced Western civilization on the rest of the planet, or what they call Western civilization. Forcing democracy with bombs. Because it is the same struggle and it's against the same people. And I think that they're definitely concerned about that. And I think that that is an important angle here, because that has always been the failure of, like, a lot of people who consider themselves liberals but not leftists, is that they only care about, like, the old guard Democrat Chuck Schumer type people, or even Hallie Stevens and AOC even teeters on that line of foreign policy. We can just kind of ignore that and let the government do what it does to make us more more wealthy here at home. But at the same time, they will advocate hard for the domestic policies, which is, I think, like bullshit, and it is disingenuous. And I think that's why a lot of people have a problem with why there is such a schism in the Democratic Party right now. If I were to wade into the electoralism game. But no, I think that it is how things have been, like, especially with a lot of voters out there. They don't care what happens overseas as long as maybe there are some better policies here. And and that's not even a conservative perspective, but still, which is where they're coming from. See if I could find the there was a video of him and Stephen Miller going crazy, talking about how they're going to start debanking people and shit. Ooh. Yeah, here it is. And this situation with NSPM 7 is basically the new COINTELPRO.
In our parlance,
I accidentally hit that button. Put that on screen.
President Trump issued a directive. In our parlance, it's called a National Security Presidential Memorandum, or NSPM. NSPM 7, to be exact. The direct.
Thank you.
President Trump issued a directive. In our parlance, it's called a National Security Presidential Memorandum, or NSPM. NSPM 7, to be exact, that directs, for the first time in American history, all of our law enforcement and intelligence agencies to work together to disrupt, identify, defund, debank, arrest, and prosecute these political terrorists that are operating in our country.
Yeah, straight up. He's going to cut us off from the banking system, arrest us, prosecute us for free speech in most cases. And look at that. The resurgence of political terrorism, it says in the background. That's like... Let me see. It really is. Yeah, there's another video with Marco Rubio going off too. And I do think that he is heavily involved in a lot of this as well, because he has this like anti-communist obsession as well, like even more so than everybody in the government. Now, I'm not a communist, but I do think that there is a lot of propaganda about communism in the US, and the way that it's talked about is kind of insane. Like, for example, they will attribute murders to famine over there and then say that it's mass murder and that it's like it was like a killing machine, like a Hitler situation or whatever. They will often ignore like, yeah, there was like famines and shit. And I'm fine with blaming a government for mismanagement deaths, but if that's the case, then we need to blame our government and our establishment here for every homeless person that has died since, since the founding of the country or whatever, if we were going to judge it by the same standards. And I think that we should, honestly. I think, it's horrific to kind of manage society in a way where so many people starve and a few people, feast. And it's definitely happened across the spectrum, but the propaganda that we get is insane. And they also they rarely tell us about the fact that a lot of the role that they played in World War II. Because they had to switch the villain very quickly after World War II. From the Nazis to the communists. See what else we could get into. Got a lot of like flock and ice stuff, but I'll get to that later. I'm not sure what's going to happen with this this crackdown though. Do I got a PA, like a sound system? Or what's that an abbreviation for? But yeah, that's the way I see it, is like it is just weird. No, I don't have a sound system, unfortunately. I sold all of my phone fell out of my pocket. I sold all my equipment a long time ago, unfortunately. You got a party tomorrow night? Let's see. What list? You're the one who he is in town? Shit, I did not even know that. I haven't been keeping up. I don't like Depends on where he goes. I'm only welcome so many places in Baltimore. House of Chiefs. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Oh, Mama Satay's. Okay, yeah, she's cool. She used to serve food at my parties. I didn't realize that shit was tomorrow. Thanks for the reminder. I'm gonna have to figure something out with that. They need a PA though. I'll have to see what's up. Did you see Tulsi Gabbard's brother was arrested for trying to like get young children to go into his hotel room?
Key. Honolulu police say they arrested the suspect while he was already in custody for a separate crime. Prosecutors this morning charged 55-year-old Batarti Gabbard, also known as Bhakti Gabbard, with custodial interference. Now, if the name sounds familiar, he's the brother of former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. And according to police, he allegedly offered a 9-year-old boy money and other items if he came up to his room in Waikiki over the weekend. The boy left, or he left, I should say, after the boy refused. Officers later arrested Gabbard on a separate theft misdemeanor along Dukes Lane last night. He appeared in court this morning and pleaded not guilty to that crime. Gabbard was released and is set to be back in court for the theft offense on August 14th. No court date set for his custodial interference case.
Yeah, they didn't say it in that report, but it was definitely her brother. And it's not like this doesn't happen on across the political spectrum. I talked about this last week, like even in environmental groups, activist groups, anarchist groups, there's going to be predators and messed up people, especially in positions of power, and especially, you know, people who are going to kind of get a pass for some reason or another. But why is it that like every single person in this administration has some kind of like connection to some kind of fucked up shit like this? And then of course that leads into the Andrew Tate situation, which of course they were arrested a couple days ago, Andrew Tate and his brother. And there's talk about whether Trump is actually going to pardon them. Or not pardon them, but refuse to extradite them. Basically, I misspoke there. Which is possible, but I've heard reports saying that the administration is kind of trying to keep their distance right now. I don't know about that though, because they have no shame. I could really see them. Here's the video of him getting arrested. You probably have seen it before, but there is something interesting that happens in this video that I want to take a look at. He tries to hand off his phone to one of his boys, and it drops on the ground. And then I'm not sure who picks it up, like if it's an agent or if it's like one of his people. Either way, you know, what you got on your phone, dude? You know what I mean? That fit too. See, look at the phone right there. He's handing, I think that might be his security. So he's trying to hand his phone off. And then the fucking camera goes away. That's the thing. It dropped on the ground. Now the other guy got it. Now, are these dumbass cops gonna recognize this? It's hard to tell. And it's also kind of hard to tell who's a cop and who's not here.
Back up.
It's wild too, because they don't even need to go through his phone to find incriminating evidence. He has been for years admitting to sex trafficking, admitting to abuse, all this shit. He ran a course for his followers that was called the PhD, Pimp and Hose degree. And it instructed them to lure women into a situation that they did not know that they were getting into, like pretending to be their boyfriend, and then confiscating their passport and locking them up and forcing them to do OnlyFans and collecting all their money. And like, he told everybody to do this. This was like his one of his get rich quick schemes for his dumbass followers. And now this is him talking about how he was with a 15-year-old girl that he forced into this situation.
Got my main bitch, my bottom bitch, Vivian. Vivian's younger. So yeah, that's how it started. I met Vivian in Slovakia. We had a long-term relationship thing. I was living in England. I moved her to England to be with me to start doing my webcam company. When I bring on new girls, I usually pair them with Vivian because Vivian's younger. Vivian's like 21. So Vivian's been with me 6 years. She's completely head over heels in love with me. She wants kids with me, everything. So Vivian's been with me 6 years. Vivian's like 21. Vivian's younger. I'm fucking all these 16-year-old women.
Oh, duh.
Women or 18-year-old women, whatever the law is. Got my main
or whatever the law is. Oh my God. Yo, this fucking idiot. I made a joke online the other day about how I was gonna take a break from being a prison abolitionist for a couple hours to celebrate the arrest of Andrew Tate, you know. And of course I was hypocrisy baiting myself, but as long as prisons exist, they should be filled with motherfuckers like this. And the fact that he has gotten away is with this shit for so long is infuriating. A lot of people don't know the extent of the shit that he like literally did to people, and they think that he's just some, you know, macho man influencer or whatever, not, you know, somebody who has done serious crimes. Interesting. If he decides to block extradition, then they might threaten to release Epstein files implicating Trump, and then they might get their karma. Wow. Yeah. That is interesting. That's an interesting angle, because a lot of those, like the UK and Europe, they've been investigating the Epstein thing a lot harder than we have. And they probably have other information that hasn't been made public. It is, and I from what I understand, the UK, even though they have sketchy age of consent laws, it seems like they have they actually do really take it seriously once they find that you're guilty of something. At least that's what I've heard. The 16 age of consent, like, that's kind of sketchy. More than kind of. Like, my buddy has been watching Asmongold. He's claiming an opinion on... Really? That's interesting. He flip-flops a lot, though. Oh, of course. He's not saying they're brutal enough. Yeah, of course. But yeah, it is like there are two levels to it, you know, like there are the crimes that he has committed personally and the harm that he has personally done to women that have come into contact with him. And then there is the you know, the influencer part of it that has done a lot of damage to the minds of young men. But you know, that isn't technically illegal, like being a dickhead on the internet. But the other and that's what people are trying to steer it towards. A lot of the conservatives are like, oh yeah, he's not illegal to say those things on the internet. And it's like, that's not what he's accused of, bro. And that's not what he admitted to. And this is one of many videos. He put out a whole video course where he's sitting in a chair saying, this is what you need to do, because this is what I did to make this like harem of involuntary OnlyFans girls. It's a messed up situation. And who knows how many dudes took his advice and became, you know, abusers themselves and exploiting these women like that. Like, I think that the progress that has been made in the you know, adult film industry in the past, you know, 10 years is very positive. Like it's awesome that women can make their own money now that are in that industry. They don't have to have dudes over them like this. Like, this is the kind of person that existed in the traditional porn industry for the most part. And you know, it was supposed to be like an escape from that, but now these guys are trying to come back into this realm. And you know what? Clavicular does this shit too. Clavicular brings on these girls as like his agent or whatever. He might not be as brutal with them as Andrew Tate does, but it's still exploitation if he's collecting a large piece of their money. It's like one thing to go into a partnership with a marketer, somebody who's going to market your material or whatever, but when you're like, this kind of situation is predatory as hell, even if it doesn't involve the physical abuse, which in the case of Clavicular, it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like it's just like a financially predatory situation. But with Tate, there has definitely been abuse. And even right-wing women have come forward, influencers, to say that he has assaulted them. So I'm absolutely helping. Exactly. Yeah. He's implicated himself in crimes 100%. I hope he gets what's coming to him for real. I mean, I would. Is he going to end up like the Lost Prophets guy? I don't know. You know, I mean, I don't support the death penalty, but I'm just saying, not a lot of people were complaining when that happened. If you remember the Lost Prophets guy, he was like a big rock star, I guess, in the early 2000s, and he abused a bunch of children, and then they got him in jail, I guess like a year or two into his sentence or something like that. We'll get some heavy shit though. Let's get a little bit of a comedic break here. Israeli president says he's the descendant of King David. This is like the weirdest eugenics shit I've ever heard.
The family lineage is amazing. I mean, usually people don't know much about all of their lineage. I have incredible privilege of knowing my family lineage all the way up to King David. We are descendants of King David, and it's written through, how do we get it? We get it through rabbis who wrote, I'm a descendant of so-and-so. My late grandfather, my namesake actually, was Rabbi Isaac Halevi Herzog. He was a giant of a spiritual leader. He was, so my family.
So yeah, that was some wild shit. I guess technically we're all descendants of the same people, yeah. But I don't know if anyone is a descendant of King David. I'm not sure if that's been determined yet. But yeah, on that, there were a couple of other things I wanted to get to on that kind of Tate topic, though. Because I saw this discourse popping up online today that it's like that that like Olympic skater with the cool hair. There's all these like conservative dudes thirsting after her or whatever, and there was this discourse online where this guy commented on her picture, like saying that she was hot or whatever, and a bunch of people freaked out because he had like a wife and kids in his picture, and they like, I guess they messaged his family, and it was some big online thing. And I was like, everybody involved in this kind of like is cringe, because first of all, like, you don't know what that guy's like. They could be in a polycule. You don't know that, like that. But also, it's kind of cringe to be commenting on women's appearance like that in public, especially when their job or what they're doing doesn't have anything to do with their appearance. Like, and I know this is something that a lot of people do, so I'm not trying to like scold you, but just something to think about, because it probably like is not great to be in that situation, have people like assessing your looks constantly if that's not your thing. Like if it's a model or a an adult actress or something like that, I think it's appropriate. But if they're an athlete, it is more appropriate to be like, I like your style. I feel like that's an appropriate way to do it. But because then you look like this guy.
For people, I think she's an absolute genius. I want to just read her that quote again, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, we cannot afford to leave Tennessee behind, Kennedy behind, Alabama behind, Mississippi behind, Georgia behind, South Carolina behind. She mentions behind 6 times, and all I'm thinking about is her behind. Look, there's no idea.
What the fuck, man? Like, yeah. I don't mean to like bang on the feminist drum all the time, but it just like, people are fucking it seems like people need some fucking education sometimes, because we're not sending our best, guys. You know what I mean? Like the we don't have the best representations in public right now, men. Is this the same dude? Hold on. No, this is a different dude on Fox News. Like, this is out of control. Hold on, this is him talking about how the soldiers are gonna basically become rapists when they start taking testosterone that Pete Hegseth is going to put them on.
I want these guys on it, but you know what's going to happen? The guys that don't need it are going to take it to triple boost.
Right.
And then they're going to get out there, and women on base, you guys better be careful. Yeah. Port calls, women in Asia, you better be careful, because these guys are going to be wild animals, and you better watch out.
Okay.
How is this shit okay to be saying on the fucking television, man?
You should have held his hand.
Yeah, but I don't know if I would have.
Oh, Dana.
Like, how you still got a job, man? It's insane. And it's like sad we're at here as a society. And that's why I like feel like I have to say basic things sometimes, like, you know, like constantly assessing women in the public over their looks and shit is kind of cringe, to say the least. And it, like, unless that's their thing that they're trying to be noticed for, you know? It's hard for us to understand because I think most dudes are like, we would be desperate to have somebody positively comment on our looks, like at any point, but it is not like that for them, especially if they're in the public eye and they're celebrities. Like, you know, I'm bouncing all over the place today. But there's also this thing in South Carolina where they're trying to pass some law that will effectively ban tattoo places. Because you're not allowed to have tattoo places near churches. Interesting. Testosterone does not make people aggressive, studies show. Yeah, that's true. If you need to practice self-control not to hurt, that's a you problem. Yeah, like that's something you need to get under control, and you can't blame that shit on other. That's why with the Plattner thing, when people kept on saying he was drunk and stuff like that, even like I don't even give a shit about that. Like I'm a substance person. Y'all know I like substances, and I think people should be able to take whatever substances they want. But there's something that comes along with that, and that is that you can't use that substance for an excuse when you start doing shit that is not cool, you know? Because I feel like a lot of things take you in the direction that you're already going to go in anyway. Like maybe your inhibitions are lowered or something like that, but that's funny. Testosterone is linked to baldness. Interesting. Because I ordered this like hair stuff, right? Because of my hairline. And because of the fact that I ordered it, I keep on getting these emails from this place trying to fucking sell me testosterone too. And I'm like, I don't want that shit, man. I don't care about that. I'm not checking my T levels. It's not important to me. I want to see if I can find a video on this South Carolina, so I don't have to read it to you. But like, Puritanism is alive and well in the United States when we have people trying to ban tattoo parlors within a certain distance of churches. Let's see, this week, anything? No. Shocking that there are no videos on this. South Carolina laws restricting where tattoo businesses can operate and certain tattoos for consenting adults are facing a constitutional challenge after a tattoo company and 2 residents sued the Department of Health and Attorney General, alleging the restrictions violate the First Amendment, because they do. The other thing is that they are trying to prevent people from getting face or neck tattoos as well. Andrew Tate's fit was really something, man. That was The lawsuit challenges South Carolina's ban on tattoo artists tattooing a person's head, face, or neck, as well as a law barring tattoo facilities from operating within 1,000 feet of a church, school, or playground. The plaintiffs argue that the restrictions limit tattoo artists and customers while treating tattooing differently from other forms of protected expression. Yeah, why do churches have priority over tattoo parlors, and why do churches have more value than tattoo parlors? That doesn't seem like it should be a thing that the government is taking a stand on, or, you know, pushing one way or the other. South Carolina has no business deciding that a tattoo behind your ear is a crime or how far tattooing can take place from a church. South Carolina can regulate tattooing for legitimate health and safety reasons, but the First Amendment does not allow it to decide that tattoos are somehow less worthy of a constitutional protection than other artistic mediums. So yeah, you could have a McDonald's next to a church. What's the difference? I think that the lawsuit will hopefully stop it, but this is the kind of shit that people are trying these days in this kind of, I don't even know what it is. It's a very weird kind of environment we're in right now, because there is this rise of fascism that's happening, not just here in the United States, but all over the place. But it's not necessarily because it's becoming more popular. It's, in some ways, the power grab that's happening in some of these places is making it less popular and actually pushing people further in the other direction. I mean, that's what's happening here. That's what's happened over the past year here. I saw this morning, speaking of other countries and fascism, Ecuador, which I think was the country that recently got a Trump ally in there, right? They suspended the elections, and they banned the opposition parties. So that could happen like pretty quickly. And everybody thinks that that kind of thing can happen here. People always say that shit, but it's happening here, man. Maybe not that specifically, but it's going in that direction. Trying to find the article I saw on that earlier. Yeah, there's an interesting kind of pull between the individualist and the collectivist. I've always found that to be somewhat of a false dichotomy, though, because I don't think that independent freedom, individuality, and individual rights need to come at the consequence of like collective well-being and collective, you know, yeah. That's kind of how I've always seen it. I think me and Derek said something about that in our maybe our first book. Let me see something real quick. I should have played this
is getting
earlier with the Cuba thing. This was the one I was looking for. This is some of the financial incentives that the Trump administration has in Cuba.
ready to take over Cuba.
And now to the crisis in Cuba.
Cuba has always posed a national security threat to the United States.
A new U.S. aircraft carrier is moving into the Caribbean.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba.
The last few weeks have all the classic hallmarks: high-level talks, a criminal indictment, and an imminent attack, all to create the pretense for action. So why is this happening now, and who is cheerleading this invasion? Well, step one was Venezuela. By removing Nicolas Maduro from power in January, the administration cut the Cuban government off from a lifeline, since Venezuela sold them crude oil and other fuel for years. And by cutting off Cuba's only lifeline and then increasing the intensity of the blockade, the Trump administration has created a humanitarian crisis. It's a maximum pressure campaign on Cuba, and nobody was pushing harder for that than Marco Rubio. Rubio is the son of Cuban exiles and a hardliner on Cuba himself, and he's made his career calling for regime change in the country. In fact, he claims to be the architect behind this maximum pressure campaign, strangling.
So yeah, Rubio being, descendants of Cuban exiles, the way that sounds, like, overwhelmingly, it was most likely a very, very rich family that left Cuba because they didn't want their assets seized in the revolution.
The country of all imports and sources of energy. Deeply connected to Rubio and the state of Florida, there is an entire community of wealthy Cuban exiles who are pushing to oust the Cuban government. That includes the Fanjul brothers, sugar billionaires. The Fanjul family were the sugar kings of Cuba before the communist revolution. When the Cuban government seized their sugar plantations, they fled to the US and they rebuilt their sugar empire here. A new regime in Cuba could mean reclaiming their former hold on Cuban sugar, and they'll support any politician who helps them do it, Democrat or Republican. They backed Rubio for years, helping make his career with consistent donations, and now they've done the same for Trump. This community also includes people like Orlando Gutierrez Boronat and the Assembly of the Cuban Resistance, a collection of NGOs all committed to a change of government in Cuba, many funded directly by the US government. Orlando Gutierrez and others help launder the government narrative, claiming that Cuba is a threat and building plans for a new government and how to open Cuba to foreign corporations. Speaking of which, we can't forget the corporate interests and the industrialists who are ready to take advantage of a new Cuban government. ExxonMobil is ready and waiting. They recently brought a case to the Supreme Court against Cuba over their confiscated land and oil refineries in the country. Regime change would likely mean a big payout for them and a way back into Cuba. And last, Jorge Mas Santos. He's a billionaire, owner of Inter Miami CF Football Club, and the chair of Mastec, a massive infrastructure and telecom company. He's connected to Trump, he runs a Cuban exile group that drafts plans to open the country to foreign investment, and he's ready to take advantage of regime change in Cuba with his massive corporation. Over the next few days and weeks.
Yeah, like, these people want their sugar plantations back, essentially. You know what I mean? And they don't want workers to be having a lot of say or share in that. It's a lot more complicated than it is displayed, or you hear from a lot of the political debates or the things that they say. But even earlier this year, Trump was talking about it, and he said straight up, like, I was talking to sugar people and stuff. Because he'll say that kind of stuff out loud. And yeah, so it is possible that they are going to somehow attack Cuba very soon, and that this whole thing is a pretense for it, while we have the whole Iran thing going on. Yeah, I guess you're right. Cuba was kind of the original Epstein Island with Batista. That's a good comparison. So yeah, over the past few weeks, or not past week, I guess, since the last stream, the United States has been engaged in war crimes in Iran, with the bombing picking back up, but they've explicitly like gone after civilian sites. I think that they might have backed off at this point because Iran started hitting Jordan and Bahrain and just all these other U.S. military bases. And I think they also started hitting desalination plants in those areas as well. So, you know, the allies of the U.S. are like, we can't hack this. So you need to stop. Hold on a minute. Let me pull this up.
I visited the Rafinia Synagogue, a Jewish congregation in Iran, which had been destroyed by Israeli bombing. Yes, Israel attacked a synagogue with 2 missiles. And the last time I went to Iran last year, I produced a documentary about the Jewish community in Iran. So this was of enormous interest to me. I went to the Gandhi Hospital, which had its ICU unit and IVF clinic destroyed in a U.S. bombing after the U.S. bombed the IRIB media complex across the street, targeting journalists. And I visited the Azadi Stadium, a volleyball and wrestling stadium, which hosted international competitions, which was bombed deliberately by the United States to ruins, as in kind of a preview of the DHS trying to rig the FIFA competition against Iran's national team. I visited the Rafinia.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then also, in addition to the bombing of the hospitals, a recent investigation showed that the Pentagon knew exactly what they were bombing when they were bombing the schools, and that they've known that place was a school for many, many years. And even if it was an AI decision, then it would have been in the AI's programming or in its set of rules to, yeah, that's a school, bomb it anyway. This was how much surveillance they apparently had on the thing. And remember, 2 bombs were dropped on it. So what the hell, man? Nobody can moralize about any other country doing anything as an excuse for the United States to bomb them. The United States is not on a moral high ground to correct anybody's government. There is also an admission that hundreds of soldiers have already been lost.
Right move by President Trump.
They tried to lie about 2 the other day. Tried to say that those 2 people didn't die, and then days later they were like, "Oh, yep, 2 people died."
I think it is the right move. I wish we didn't have to do it. I hate war. President Eisenhower said that many times. I hate war as only a soldier who lived it can. But unfortunately, there's a price we have to pay for our freedoms, for the safety and security of your families. We sometimes have to use our military forces. And I'm so grateful for the military forces that the jobs are done. I mourn the loss of the 13 soldiers we've lost, the hundreds of soldiers we've lost. I think the president has to rip the Band-Aid off and finish the job, unfortunately.
The United States, as I would put it,
finish the job. There is no job to finish. Where are you just going to keep on killing people? It's insane. And then meanwhile, the settlers in Israel have picked up their attacks on the West Bank, burning houses, killing children, crazy shit. And now they're talking about making settlements in Gaza too. And that seems to be of course, supported by the government, but that's going to get ugly. And meanwhile, the whole world, like not the whole world, but the whole country thinks that there's still a fucking ceasefire. Check something real quick. Yeah, let's take a look at this. This is a quick 1 minute. The FBI is no longer investigating ICE killings.
Reporting about whether the FBI will be able to investigate ICE confrontations just days after 2 deadly immigration enforcement incidents. Our Julie Sirkin is joining us now, traveling with the president. So, Julie, explain where things stand tonight.
Hallie, federal agents were told in an internal memo the FBI would no longer investigate attacks against federal officers, including immigration enforcement, according to
Attacks against federal officers.
2 people familiar with the memo, but the DOJ and DHS deny the change, saying in a joint statement, Hallie, the FBI will continue to investigate in accordance with agency policy. The back and forth leading to more questions about accountability tonight after 2 immigrants were killed by ICE agents who were not wearing cameras less than a week apart. In one of those cases, Hallie, DHS...
They were wearing cameras, but they weren't turned on. They were probably turned on, but they probably got rid of them.
Initially said an officer fired in self-defense, but the president's border czar pushing transparency, saying today that he believes body cameras are the way to go. Hallie?
We thank
you. One of the problems with body cameras that many of us predicted many years ago is that it would be conveniently used only when it can help the cops, not when it can hurt them. In situations where the cops messed up, the body camera is going to be turned off. It's going to have some kind of malfunction. They're going to delete it. But when the body camera footage can be evidence used against you, that's a different story. Occasionally, cops have gotten busted on body camera footage for, doing things they shouldn't be doing. But that's more of like a company policy violation situation. Like you're smoking crack in your car or you're planting drugs on somebody. There have also been reports that Google is censoring reviews of ICE detention centers. Like a lot of people have been putting reviews on there talking about how oh, hey, what's up, Kendra? Yeah, talking about the conditions in there. And Google's been taking it down. And then they turned off reviews now at this point. The ICE is one of the scariest things happening, man. Just because of the there are so many angles to it. Like the removal of needing a warrant, habeas corpus, all that. The just trying to expel a third of the population. And this has become normal politics. We are in a very fucked up place. And then the whole situation with the ICE shooter last week with the guy in Maine, it's kind of old news now since it's a couple days old now. But his whole family came forward, his 2 ex-wives and his daughters, to say that like he threw boiling water on them, he beat them, he you know, I think he did something with a gun. I don't know if he threatened to shoot himself, or there was something like that going on. But yeah, that I have a feeling that that's not an unusual situation. And people were talking about how there was no background check or whatever, and it's like, these are the kind of people they want. Ashley Burlett told the Portland Press Herald in a phone interview on Thursday afternoon that her ex-husband called admitting to the shooting and defended his actions. The Press Herald reviewed a screenshot of incoming calls Ashley received from her ex-husband's current wife's Facebook account on Wednesday. He was asking me to lie for him and to cover for his character, she said. I told him I was not going to lie for him, and he tried to say that he was justified because the guy tried to hit him with his car. She said that she has seen videos of him on the scene and of the shooting and confirmed that it was him. And she told him, nowhere in there does it show that this man charged at you with a car. In his head, it's justified. He's unusually calm about it, she said. She told a reporter that she wanted to speak publicly because she had previously reported concerns to his supervisors in the military about his mental health. She said he was abusive in their relationship. She said she's been inundated with calls since report of his involvement began circulating online, threatening her and her family. Yeah, I really think that they don't care about this stuff. Like, this is not something that they take seriously. And this is the same reason why you have cops showing up to like domestic violence calls and doing nothing, because they're also like that. You know, so there's a high chance the cop that comes is, yeah, an abuser himself. And that's just a part of this. That's like one of the, you know, one of the issues. So yeah, he's been bouncing all over the place, basically. And he had a few short terms as a police officer. I wonder how many people who like are even too bad for the cops are getting thrown into ICE. I bet it's a lot of people, because this guy is like a cop reject. You got to be really like, you got to have problems to be rejected by the cops. Especially these days. But there were a whole bunch of stories that came out about the horrible things that he did to his ex-wife and his daughters. This is another person, though, I have doubts about us getting any kind of justice, at least in the current situation. And everything that's been happening with these detention centers and the flights around the country, they're like disappearing people. There's always been a lot of reasons to be afraid of the government and to have issues with the government, but this is so crazy. No, it was about the ICE officer, yeah. Yeah, the guy that they killed, there doesn't seem like anybody has anything but nice things to say about them. both the guy that was shot in Houston and the guy that was shot in Maine. And then there was somebody else on Monday last Monday, I guess. He died in Georgia after he was denied his medication. He was being transferred between places. And a lot of the times they move you all around so your family can't get a hold of you. I saw some messed up videos, ICE videos this week too. They continue to arrest Native Americans in New Mexico. Like, this is crazy. And a lot of people think that it has kind of wavered off since Alex Preddy and Renee Good, but that's just the coverage.
Y Texas.
Because Trump has ramped up like the quotas. That's a lot of the reason why a lot of people have been getting shot recently. Here in California, they were chased out of a grocery store, though.
Show your warrants! 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 Show your warrants!
Nice.
Show your warrants! Show your warrants! Show your warrants! Kidnappers, no warrants!
That's what people should be doing everywhere, man. I feel like it's the luck of the draw how they're gonna respond to you, though. Like, they could run away with that, or they could pull out a gun and shoot you, you know what I mean? It all depends on what mentally unwell, unhinged chud you get that day. There are like so many ICE videos. Where is let's get to some of the flock stuff. Seems like the mainstream has caught on to the flock resistance, and they've changed their tune a little bit. But there is something kind of concerning. Like, a lot of these towns that have been taking out the flock systems, they've been, because, you know, the people are freaking out, and then they'll say, all right, we'll take them down. Then they put new cameras up that do the same thing, but they're from a different company.
Authorities say since July 8th, Flock safety cameras in the city of Ashland and Ashland County have been the targets of vandals. In some cases, the flock camera poles were hit by a car or truck, and in others, the equipment was struck by what authorities believe is a baseball bat or club.
Yeah, some people are just driving them over. Like if they got a big truck, they're just driving, which like they're gonna get your license plate, bro. What are you doing? OPSEC, but okay.
The victims of the vandalism are the taxpayers who pay for the cameras.
They're the public's cameras. You know, we've had some tax dollars that have been put to use for these things.
Burn them tax dollars down, man. I don't give a shit.
I think overwhelmingly the general public would like to have a safe community, and these cameras are a piece of that.
The Ashland County Sheriff says the vandalism is part of a trend across the country, and he believes it is based on misinformation.
I believe it is based too.
This perception that these cameras are out there tracking them all over the place and all this other nonsense, and that's simply not true. They take pictures of license plates, and then we read the license plates based on the data that we input. If we're looking for a specific plate, we look for the plate. Or if they're...
No, you feed it into a program that makes a profile of every single person.
There's a wanted person attached to it, or if there's a missing person attached to it, or somebody that's in harm's way, you know, we look for that data.
Investigators say, ironically, they are using the flock safety cameras in their effort to identify those who have been damaging the cameras.
So they leave from damaging our camera and drive by another one that maybe they didn't know about, or go to another county or whatever. So, you know, yes, I mean, it's very possible that flock cameras could help us catch the individuals responsible for damaging our own cameras.
Once the vandals are brought to justice, authorities intend to seek restitution to repair or replace the cameras that have a value of up to $3,500 per unit.
Now that they've been...
Last I looked at the one guy, his GoFundMe was up to like 10 grand or something.
Damaged and down, what are we missing? How many people are coming through that may have been missing or that have been wanted? Victims need their justice. And now that those cameras are not there to help us, you know, how many people...
It's like, yeah, maybe you could use it to solve a crime or two, but that doesn't mean we should live in a panopticon to make cops' jobs easier. Maybe actually try investigating things instead of sitting on your lazy ass in your fucking police department. So this is some of the resistance that we're seeing with some of these towns fighting back. But like I said, they need to be persistent to make sure that that they don't just replace it with another company that does the same.
Leaders here in Windsor say it was not an easy decision, but they have decided to pull the plug on the 16 flock cameras that were set up around town. And to be clear, these cameras are not the kind that send you a ticket if you go by speeding or running a red light. They just sit there quietly photographing every vehicle going by, noting the time, license plate, and location. If a car is stolen out of Hartford, police can access the flock cameras and see if that car went by a camera here in Windsor. But town leaders have decided to turn off those cameras because flock safety could not guarantee that it's not sharing its information with federal agencies like ICE.
Where is the data going? Who has access to that information? Who can access that information? Is it being shared with third parties?
In a statement from Flock Safety, they say public safety and privacy are not competing goals, and Flock is committed to transparency, accountability, and local oversight.
Public safety and privacy are not competing goals. I think they are in this situation, yeah. Public safety and privacy would not be competing goals if you weren't surveilling people like this.
In every community we serve. Now, one resident here in Windsor used a Freedom of Information Act request to find out how many times camera information was accessed. He got it for a 9-week period and found out that that information was accessed by third parties more than 500,000 times in just 9 weeks.
Yeah, and the other thing is, all these cops are using it to stalk women and shit like that. And they are when they are using it to solve crimes, they have a high error rate, which is crazy because you have this machine that takes all the work away from you of having to track things down and like do the things that cops used to. I don't even know if they actually used to do that. I mean, you know, cops probably just used to crack skulls and sell drugs and shit like that. You know what I mean? But in theory, cops are supposed to investigate things, and this takes all of the work away from that, and they still can't get it right. So this is a video on that thing I was just talking about where, hold on.
– Remove them Tuesday night.
I can't pause it for some reason.
Through Axon. These flock safety cameras used to help law enforcement read license plates to catch criminals are under fire here in the Fox Valley. And while Grand Chute voted to remove them Tuesday night, it also voted to install new cameras through Axon, a competing company.
We talked with Axon, and they offer a very solid product, something that we believe benefits the community in multiple ways and also respects resident privacy in a way that feels more comfortable, quite honestly.
The police chief says the town would have more knowledge of how the data is being used if another department accesses it. Chief Moss also cited a pattern of inaccuracies, including with Flock's relationship with Oshkosh, poor service with malfunctioning cameras, and a lack of security protocols in agencies it shares data with. To give you an idea, here in Grand Chute, each dot on the map represents a camera. That's 23 in total. You can see they're concentrated in that Fox River Mall area. Now on Tuesday, unlike in other municipalities, no residents spoke in favor or against the Flock cameras. Now, in light of this, we asked Flock why the public should still trust its services. Flock highlighted the success it's had catching criminals and added, each agency owns and controls its data, including who can access it and whether it is shared. Continuing, when issues are identified, our focus is on resolving them quickly. We have continued to invest in reliability, support, and clearer customer communication, and we remain committed to being the kind of responsive public safety partner agencies can count on.
And this ain't just this place either. This is other places as well. Douglas County to replace Flock cameras with $22.8 million Axon system. So Axon is going to be the next one to look out for, because it seems like they're just switching from one to the other. This is how they do that shit, man. There's a big hype around something, and then they give fake concessions to get people to shut up, and then they just do the thing anyway when people shut up. This is a weird one. On September 30th, 2025, a Flock vice president logged into the Dunwoody PD's Flock system and looked at a camera in the children's gymnastics room of a private community center. He did not look at any other cameras in the entire 400 camera network that day. The community center shared their cameras directly to the police department under the pretense that access was solely for real-time critical incident response. Flock and Dunwoody elected officials both say that this was for a sales demo. They claim this was part of an authorized activity approved under the city's demo partner agreement. The problem with that is the city cannot provide any information that the demo partner agreement exists. What kind of sales demo would require looking at one camera into a children's gymnastics room? Can anyone rationally explain why a police agency that is interested in Flock would like to see one third-party camera integration that is in a children's gymnastics room. That is incredibly strange. I guess this was Atlanta, trying to figure out where Dunwoody is. Yeah, Georgia. So near Atlanta. That's some twisted shit, man. A sales demo? Like, we wanted to make sure that, like, we could see if there was not a mass shooter in the, like, I can't even twist an excuse for it. Like, I can't even do it. Doesn't even make sense. These guys, I'm not sure who these guys are. They seem a bit chud-coded, but you never know. Just saying. So before I share their video, I don't know who they are or what their other content is like.
They just moved.
They apparently went into the Flock building trying to film them and being like, "Why don't you have a problem being filmed?"
For
Flock?
Mm-hmm.
Who you have an interview with?
We're the news.
You know, so who you have an interview with?
Garrett, ideally, but if there's another representative.
You said Garrett? Garrett, the CEO? Or?
Mm-hmm.
You come on.
Yeah, we're trying to get an interview today, yeah.
Oh, no,
The guy said, "We're the news."
Yeah, but there's nobody here.
Dang, so they sent us to the wrong spot. How long ago did they move?
Like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, but we don't have anything, so we'll see you guys.
Okay, where's the spot in Buckhead?
We can't get that out.
What is that, like for security reasons? Yeah. Oh, so they care about security a lot, like their own privacy?
Can they go? Thank you.
Can we put a camera up by your house and your house? What? Wait, you guys care about security here? Yeah, we also care about our privacy too, so. We'll see you guys at the next location, okay?
That's the security guard right there.
That's the same guy?
Yeah, that's the security guard, 100%.
Hey, sir, we're surveilling you. Is that okay? Do you consent to being surveilled? We're just...
It's the same guy in a different location.
Filming you right now. Do you consent to us surveilling you with our cameras? Oh, well, we're doing it for safety. Oh, no, he's getting our license plate. What are we going to do? Sir, we're not having that. You filmed us. We're filming you double now. Oh, yeah. Get him, film him, surveil him. Sir, does getting surveilled make you feel uncomfortable at all? Can you send my regards to Garrett, please? Sir, are you calling the cops?
Yeah.
He's calling the cops on us. I don't feel safe either. We should call our cops too. Sir, do you feel in danger right now? Why are you calling the cops? You gotta tighten up, man.
After digging into real estate records, we found that Flock appears to have secretly relocated their headquarters to this building right here.
We the people, our voice have just not been heard, it feels like. This pressure adds up and we need to use it. Again, we are the ants and the ants can win against the grasshoppers if we team up properly. They've been here for about 3 weeks now and I don't see Flock anywhere. It seems they're looking for some private.
Yeah, they're definitely not putting their signs on their buildings at this point.
Let me see. Good morning. How are you? Oh, we're just here for a meeting we're going up to. Beautiful building.
So, gentlemen, FYI, real quick, if you want to be taking photos of something in the building, where's that?
For an interview at the Flock headquarters.
Sorry, I was talking about.
Okay, that's okay.
Well, you can't. No, sir.
What?
The floor's a lockdown period. And sorry, is that rolling right now? You need to cut that off. No,
Film?
Can you put that up on face, please?
We're just going up for an interview to the Flock building.
No, sir. You can't do anything like that. You don't have point of contact or anything like that. No, sir.
You're telling me the Flock people told you to say no? Because they didn't say no to us.
That camera is catching. Would you mind turning it off? I'm going to ask you to go, please. Can you please leave the building?
We have something.
Can you please leave the building?
Seems like privacy is a top priority here, huh?
Can you please leave the building? Thank you. Appreciate you.
Well, Flock's new office is here in this building. They don't want people to know that. And obviously they have their guys at the front keeping us out. He's doing his job. I get it. So far on Instagram, 8,000 votes, 91% no from 1 hour ago.
Yeah, this has gone way mainstream at this point. This is like one of the few things that everybody agrees upon.
So far on YouTube, 1 hour ago, 3,500 votes, 93% no. I wouldn't even want flock cameras installed in my arch nemesis neighborhood. What's bad for America is bad for Americans, period.
All right, let's see if this is really true. So here he is walking up to the new flock safety building. As you can see, they don't put their name on the sign, so they're very secretive about this. Take a look at the building architecture. See those little arcs that they have around it? So this is the new building. I looked it up on AI. This is, in fact, the new building. They're supposed to be moved in here. And here is the building on Google. So as you can see, here it is. Let me just move it over. So here are those same arcs that were in the video that we just watched. Let me see if I can go down here just to do a comparison. Here are these arcs, and let's go over here. These are the same arcs. So this is the building, and here's the, here's a closer look at that. And if we go here, this is the same lobby that he's in. So we found the building. So let's just verify on Google the businesses that are in this building. It's called the however you pronounce this, but this is the building right here. And here
it's pronounced Medici after the Medici dynasty of the Renaissance that basically invented modern banking.
Are the businesses that are in this building. Do you see flock anywhere? I don't. So even on Google, if you go and you type this in, flock wants their privacy. They don't even want to be listed on Google for being in this building. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, they're trying to go underground at this point. And well, I have seen like some people. There was this one like influencer that was commenting on every post related to this and saying this is why everybody needs to like ditch your cell phone and not use a cell phone, not use a smartphone. And it's like, man, I have some friends that do that stuff, but that's not going to work. Your solution towards a better world cannot be taking away people's treats. That's not going to work. You know what I mean?
MAGA? Oh, was MAGA?
It is not going to work. I'm not even going to do that shit. That's one of the few good things about living at this time on this planet. This is actually a really shit time to live on this planet, but we got a lot of cool treats. This is the only thing we got. So I think we need to find solutions where people can keep their treats. It's probably one of my controversial takes. This veteran got a Secret Service visit for burning a Trump effigy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the cops and the Secret Service who have just now come here to talk to me. Now, I did not talk to them that long, but I did say a few things. It's a long story.
Hello and welcome back to the MAGA Whisper. I'm Sean, never MAGA, always MAGA curious. Bottoms up. Look at that. I guess we had ignition.
I don't know how people could put the stuff in their mouth like that. I've seen fire spinners do that shit, and I'm always like,
Let's finish this bitch off.
I hope it's hard liquor or something and not lighter fluid. Yeah, that's what I thought. Straight tiki torch fluid. That's why he should be getting a wellness check. Well, the thing is it's not the treats themselves that are detrimental. It is the control that the establishment has over them and their influence on them. Like, we could have, you know, a lot of the technologies that we have could be super cool and the complete opposite of whatever we got now. If I know for people that do live without smartphones, it's significantly more difficult for them to live their lives these days. Just because, like, you kind of need one to survive and to get a job and to stay employed and, you know, that kind of stuff. Even for, you know, paying rent and stuff like that. I tried too. I used to do all that stuff. I used to try to live completely. I had no bank account, nothing. And it was very hard to live like that. And eventually I just said, screw it. And my life's been a lot easier ever since. Unfortunately, since then, technology gets worse. I agree 100% with that. Making our own crap for sure. We need to build alternatives. Whoa, I just kicked my desk with my knee. We need alternatives, and we need to build the alternatives. That's a very good point. That's always been something that I've advocated very much, and that's why I spent as much time as I did in the tech industry, because I was trying to push things that I saw could go in a certain direction. I guess, you know, I was outvoted by the tech bros. But yeah, that's a very, very good point. See what else. No, I didn't get ads for them. I wonder if they're legit. Oh, I missed. I get frustrated when I do this because some stories that don't have a clear summary end up mixed in the wrong place, so it'll make it very difficult for me to clip later. But this is related to the Iran war. The U.S. is planning for a wider war, said one U.S. official familiar with the internal administration discussions, adding that the Pentagon was increasing the number of military aircraft in the region. But the official, speaking on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to talk to the media, cautioned that the expansion of U.S. operations will be limited by dwindling stockpiles and air defense and long-range munitions, and constraints on the ability to surge more troops and aircraft into the area because of battle damage. We do not have enough to safely sustain operations, and I don't think the White House is aware of that, the official said. Are you still not doing the smartphone? Damn. That's crazy. I know one or two people that still get through without it. See, the thing is, for me, if I don't have a smartphone, there's no point in me having a phone, because I don't use the smartphone for the phone. I don't like talking on the phone. I'll just use it for the internet. I like having a computer in my pocket. I don't call people, and I don't answer people when they call me. I'm very bad at that. I have some friends that understand it and are quite patient, but a lot of people just are like, all right, screw this guy. Yeah, it's just something I just, you know, I feel like there's never a moment. I think most of my friends that are good at the phone or they like being on the phone a lot, they are always doing something else when they're on the phone. They're like multitasking, and I can't do that. Like if somebody calls me on the phone and I need to talk to them I need to like go somewhere where I'm not doing anything else and pace back and forth or something. And I feel like people who could integrate it into their day better, where they don't have to stop doing other things, you know, it's a little bit easier for them. But for me, I'm like, you know, you're I can't do it. But it is weird because I don't leave my house much anyway, so I probably really wouldn't need a smartphone. Except for when I occasionally travel. Yesterday, this thing happened in New York. They tried to make a big deal about it, saying that it was a big explosion, an incendiary device at an ICE building. Really, it was a guy setting a fire on the sidewalk. See if I could find it. Find the other picture. There was like a later security camera footage that showed the actual setting of it. It's just somebody setting some gas on the ground. They're like, oh, the terrorist Antifa strikes again. I like the gasp in the background. They just spilled a liquid on the ground.
Guys, oh my God! Oh my God!
And then the cops come in and fuck them up, unfortunately.
Oh my God! Get away from there!
Oh, she's saying she's trying to tell him to run. She's like, get out of there. The cops are coming.
Oh my God, get away from there! No.
Or I hope she's not talking to the cops worried about that.
Get away from there!
I can't tell who she's talking to.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah, they're...
Get away! Oh my God!
She's still yelling, get away. Yeah, that's sad. I guess she thought that there was going to be some like big explosion or something like that.
Oh my God.
It was bizarre that this happened like an hour after the whole Cuba thing came out yesterday. I don't think they needed to like chokehold that guy like that. So I'm not sure how I feel about that one. Is that one a false flag or just somebody who didn't do a very good job? You know what I mean? Not that I'm saying I wanted it to be bigger or anything. I'm just saying that if you're going to play around like that, that's a little bit embarrassing. That's kind of a weak Like, you just set the sidewalk on fire, bro. That's what gives me pause. Because so many of these weird situations that pop up, it's like just such a sloppy and weird, like the incendiary device that the people had outside of that Jake, what's his name? The guy with the vest, Jake Lang. In that situation, they came with like some incense holder or something like that. It was like this round thing that was smoking, and it didn't explode. Didn't seem like it ever had any chance of exploding, and the cops were all talking about like how it's a bomb. There's this security footage. Somebody had a camera, I guess, in the alleyway there. And it seems like, or people are saying that it seems like the ICE agents are saying in the end they're going to die. I haven't watched this one yet, but I did save it. So let's see.
He's going to die. The man is going to die.
That seems pretty clear.
He's going to die. The man is going to die.
That's disturbing. This was in Passaic, New Jersey. Let's see if I can get it. It was shared by Perla Martinez. Just so you got the source. Look at this prison conditions in Georgia.
Live from the V Live. Fuck Valdosta State Prison. I'm saying it again. Fuck Valdosta State. Look what I'm walking in. You see this? Y'all see this shit? Bro, ain't got no help, no nothing, bro. Look at this shit. I want y'all to see this. Look how the shoot. I'm in the hole now. I'm supposed to be in the hole. We ain't got no help. We ain't got no police. We ain't got nobody check. Now watch the shoe float on the water. Why the fuck is my shoe floating on the fucking water in the room, bro? Why the fuck am I kicking water in the room, bro? Ain't no fucking help, bro. Hold on, this shit get worse. Hold on. Look at the door. Fuck these niggas. God, look at the door. Look at this. Look how dirty. This filthy as fuck. Water everywhere. Water everywhere. Trash out. Shit.
So like when you hear about like prison riots and stuff like that, that's why every time there was a prison riot, I'm like, what were they doing? What were the conditions like in there? And what are the demands? You know what I'm saying? Like, because that happened a couple weeks ago, and then it kind of disappeared from the news about the trying to improve the conditions there. This was at a different place. I can't remember where it was, but it wasn't Georgia.
Get me back on camera. Yeah. Free me. They locked me up and put me in a hole with no DR, no nothing. I'm sitting in a hole for nothing. I'm walking around in water when I was just working in the kitchen and I just got put in for a pre-release program. I ain't doing nothing. They don't give a fuck about us. Look at the place. Look at this shit. This shit is raggedy.
And like, I don't give a shit what dude is in there for. Like, nobody deserves that. Oh, thank you, AJ from PNW.
I don't even have a light in the room. I got to use my phone for the light. There is no light in the room. There's no light in the room. Y'all free me, man. I can't make this shit up, man. Cut that shit off.
It's horrific what's happening, man. And you know, this is why I'm when people say like I'm crazy for prison abolition, like for believing in that, I really don't think so. And like I've said before, I think there are other ways to do it. We could put people on house arrest. We already do that. Why do we have to keep people in these dungeons? Where many times people are brutalized by other, hey, it helps. Everything helps. I appreciate it, AJ. And I appreciate that, you know, you're showing your appreciation, basically. It means a lot. Yeah, we have the technology to avoid this. People get brutalized in there by, like, people who go in there for offenses that aren't as serious get brutalized by people who are in there for more serious offenses. They're disgusting conditions. People are abused by the guards. Think about women's prisons, too. And people were talking about it. I was kind of getting into this debate about Andrew Tate. Not really a debate, but a conversation about, like, what do you think should happen in his situation? And I was saying, well, it brings up an interesting discussion there because of the fact that he's, like, super rich, right? Or at least, you know, he's got some money. He might not be as rich as he pretends to be, but he's definitely got some money. And in that case, I think that their money should be distributed between their victims for restitution. I think that our criminal justice system should be more focused on restitution than punishment. And for people who do have to be secluded, yeah, like everybody in the same government housing, people like Andrew Tate do not go to their mansion to have house arrest. You know what I mean? They would go to a, you know, government housing situation where they would be able to live by themselves, or maybe perhaps with a family member if they were safe enough and their family member wanted to. You know, I think those are the kind of situations that a just world would have. I don't think that we're close enough to that. You know, a lot of people advocate for a more like Norwegian type prison system, which would definitely be an improvement from what we have, although not 100% ideal in my eyes. And it is pretty crazy because in Norway, you could literally kill somebody and be out in 20 years. Like that guy from that death metal band or black metal band. What's his name? Varg. He like brutally killed his band member and then he was out in 20 years. It's crazy. But again, you know, it is also kind of crazy to just, it's an interesting debate, you know, because then even if you do believe in abolition, some abolitionists don't agree with me about the house arrest thing. I think that that's the best solution that we have tangibly. And there's other people who will disagree about the length of the sentences. Like, you know, a death sentence doesn't deserve a life, or a murder case doesn't deserve a death sentence. Some people, or a life sentence, sorry. Like in the case of Norway, and that's pretty normal there. So it's interesting. Regardless, though, we're doing something very wrong in this world and in this country, for sure, with the way people are treated in these places. There is that old quote. Who said it? It's like the you can judge how civilized a society is by how they treat their prisoners? Yeah, they do look pretty decent there. But and also I don't know if they have a homeless problem like they have here in Norway, for sure. I went to Estonia, which is like right across the sea or the channel or whatever that body of water is. Oh, if they're a danger to people within the home, then they should be like isolated in their own housing. But yeah, I think Norway has a pretty good system in general. But in Estonia, I was out one night with the company that I was working with because they were based there. That's how I ended up taking the trip there. And we met this guy and we were drinking with him for half the night. And he started talking. He couldn't speak English, but all the other people could. So I was getting like translations from them. And they told me that he was basically like a homeless guy who just kind of chilled, and that homeless people are kind of rare there. And when they are homeless, it's just kind of because like they're in a situation elsewhere that they don't want to be in, and they don't, it was a very different type of home. It was more of like a beach bum kind of situation, like that classic, trope of the hippie guy who lives on the beach and it's kind of cool for him, basically. That's what they were saying. It was like there, like it wasn't like you're in a situation like you're here in the US. Now, I don't know if that was an accurate description or if it was, but that is what I heard. From what I understand, the US is one of the worst places to be homeless in, and one of the places with the most homeless people. And that quote, yeah, you can judge how civilized a society is, because it's going to bother me, is by how it treats its prisoners. The famous saying about judging a society by its prisons is widely and mistakenly attributed to Dostoevsky, though literary scholars note it actually originated from a 1960s prison reform memo. Interesting. That's the AI overview, though, so I'm not sure if it's true. Goodreads says that a society should be judged not how it treats its outstanding citizens, but by how it treats its criminals. Dostoevsky. So maybe that's the accurate one and the paraphrasing one. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely recommend y'all checking out the video that I put out yesterday. This one right here.
And such, but
I talked to Symposia about a whole bunch of cool stuff, from MK Ultra to just the psychedelic movement in general, and let's see here. The psychedelic movement in general, and just some of the things that have been happening there with the MDMA trials, and just some of the shadiness that has been happening with some of these corporations trying to take things over. What's he on to? What, with the Antichrist? But yeah, it was a super interesting conversation. And there was this one rabbit hole I forgot to go down them with. We were talking about this kind of new religious psychedelic movement where people want to use people in different religious sects want to use psychedelics to kind of get more people on board with what they're doing, and also for their own, version of a religious experience. And they mentioned this cult called Santo Daime. They are a cult that has, I guess, religious exemption in the United States to practice ayahuasca ceremonies. And I actually went to one of their rituals in 2019. This reader that of somebody that I was connected with through the activist world reached out to me and was like, hey, there's this ayahuasca ceremony I'm traveling to in your in your state. You want to come? And I was like, all right, that sounds cool. I've never gotten a chance to go to something like that. I did not realize that it was a Christian ayahuasca cult. So I went there, and the invite said to wear white, and I'm like, all right. So I had like a white kind of like shirt with a design on it, and then a white tie-dye pants. And I showed up, and everybody there is in white robes and shit. And they're looking at me like I'm not dressed properly. And so right there, it started out awkward. And then, they give me a pair of loner robes that I have to put on. So I'm wearing white robes with everybody else. And the whole thing was like a several hour long church service that sounded like a Baptist church service in a way. But the weird thing about it is everything was in Portuguese. They were singing in Portuguese, and they gave you pamphlets with Portuguese songs on them. And then, I don't know what you're talking about there. Yeah, so they're trying to get us to sing in Portuguese, and we have to dance around and stuff and do their like dances, which reminded me of some kind of like Western line dance. You got to move around so much. And instead of giving you the dose all at once, they had this kind of protocol where they gave you a shot of the ayahuasca every like 30 minutes or something like that throughout the service. So you would get up and you would be able to be like, do I want one again or do I not? And you'd go up voluntarily and stuff. And every half hour you would go up and take another one. So you would be getting periodically, like you would be more dosed. And it was like hard to navigate those dances they were trying to do, especially you're trying to read a language that you've never even spoken before or heard of. Very strange. And so I did kind of like the process of taking the small doses. It's not a bad situation, especially if somebody's a first timer, but the rest of it was crazy as hell. And, I had kind of went there with a goal in mind, because I've, some of I have eating issues for my whole life. And that's been a challenge for me. And it was a challenge for me during the cancer situation. And this was like a year after I recovered from the cancer. So, I was like, maybe I could get my eating situation under control. So I go there, and like, I did not get nothing out of that situation because it was so bizarre. I now look back on it as like this cool experience of gonzo journalism. You know what I mean? Like, I got to kind of witness this crazy drug cult that travels around the country. But also, I did not get the kind of mental repairs that I was looking for from it. However, I think it might have even been on the drive home. Like, it was immediately after this thing where I was like, I did not get anything out of this. I don't know what else to do. I think I need to like go to therapy or get like professional help for this situation. So now I joke that maybe the machine elves did talk to me. And maybe what they said was, go to therapy, dumbass. Exactly. Yeah. So that it is funny. Maybe that was the message. Maybe that was the lesson. It did help. It worked out. It worked out. But it was kind of funny. I wrote about that in the new book I have coming up about that experience. It's called, the chapter is called My Midlife Crisis and the DMT Cult. That's a good one to look forward to for the release of the next book when it comes out soon. It's finished, but like it needs polish before it goes out the door. But if you're interested in reading my last book for free, the one I got right here next to me, this one that you can't see through the chat when I have it. Yeah. This is a memoir about my time in the music industry. And you could, at raveoutlaw.com, you could read the whole book. All the chapters, you just click. It'll take you to, I should have done open a new tab, but it'll take you to a blog where I used to put all my articles and stuff on, where I uploaded these chapters. And I also put pictures from the events and stuff like that aren't even in the book. So if you did buy the book and you've read through it, it might be fun to check out the pictures as well. I had to redo my website a little bit over the weekend because the host was trying to raise the prices, and I had to kind of just downgrade to a little bit of a single page joint, you know what I mean? So that's the deal with that. But yeah, I'm gonna head out for the day. I think that's all I got. I appreciate y'all joining me. It is always fun to catch up with everybody, and yeah, check out my new video if you haven't. And hopefully I'll put out a new one. I know I said that my frequency was going to be like almost every day with the standalone videos, but between the book, the screenplay, looking for a new job, it's been tough. And it's been tough to select topics too. Like I haven't even edited the streams down. I need to do a little bit better with pushing stuff out. But I really appreciate y'all joining me and sticking with me through all the changes and stuff. And yeah, much more to come. Peace.